Karl didn't like long drives at night, but the money was good, and the delivery had to be made by morning. The company's GPS had sent him along a narrow state road that carved through endless stretches of forest. There were no towns, no lights, not even the occasional farmhouse. Just dark trees pressing close to the shoulder and a moonless sky. The clock on his dash read 11:42 p.m. when the first strange thing happened. A figure stepped into the road. Karl slammed the brakes, tires screaming against wet asphalt. The van fishtailed and stopped just short of the man, his face washed white in the headlights. He wore a hooded raincoat, head bowed, arms limp at his sides. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Karl rolled down the window a crack. "Hey, are you okay? Need a ride?" The man didn't respond. He just slowly lifted his head. His eyes glinted unnaturally in the glare before he turned and bolted into the woods. Karl sat frozen, heart thudding, before fumbling for his phone. No signal. He thought about following the man, then dismissed the idea. People who disappeared into forests at night did so for a reason. He shook his head, shifted into gear, and pressed on. 20 minutes later, he saw headlights in his rearview mirror. They appeared suddenly, blindingly bright, and were closing fast. Karl edged to the side, expecting the car to pass. It didn't. Instead, it latched onto his bumper, tailing him so closely he could make out the dark shape of the driver through the windshield. He sped up. The car matched his speed. He braked. It braked. "Come on, man, just pass," Karl muttered, palms sweating against the wheel. Then the high beams flicked off. When they came back on, the car was gone. The road behind him was empty. Karl's breath hitched. He fought the urge to pull over, knowing that sitting still in the dark was worse. He drove faster, the van rattling around sharp curves. By 12:30 a.m., fatigue had settled into his bones. He decided to pull over at the next safe turnout to stretch and get some air. Minutes later, he spotted a faded rest area sign and turned onto a gravel road that led to a clearing with 2 picnic tables and a single graffiti-covered restroom. The van's engine ticked softly as he stepped out into the silence. The air smelled of wet leaves and rust. He walked a few paces, rolling the tension out of his shoulders. That's when he noticed the sound, faint but steady. A crunch of gravel. Footsteps. Karl turned. At the edge of the clearing stood the same man from the road, hooded and still, his head tilted at an unnatural angle. "Hey!" Karl's voice cracked. "Do you need help? I can take you to..." The man took a single step forward. Karl bolted for the driver's seat, slamming the door just as the man lunged. Something heavy struck the van's side, rocking it on its shocks. Karl jammed the shifter into reverse, gravel spraying as he tore back to the main road. In the mirror, the man stood motionless in the clearing, watching the van disappear into the night. Karl's hands trembled on the wheel. He reached for his phone again. Still no signal. He tried to convince himself it was just some drifter, someone unhinged but ultimately harmless. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling of being hunted. At 1:15 a.m., the van's low fuel light blinked on. Swearing under his breath, Karl scanned the roadside for any sign of civilization. Finally, a glowing sign appeared ahead, a 24-hour service station. Relief flooded him. The station was empty except for a clerk slumped behind the counter. Karl filled the tank, then stepped inside for coffee. "You all right?" the clerk asked, eyeing Karl's pale face. "Yeah, just long night," Karl replied, forcing a shaky smile. Hey, is there another route to Highway 14? GPS sent me through the woods, and I'd rather not go back that way. The clerk frowned. Only road out here's the one you came in on. Service is spotty for about 30 miles. Once you hit the ridge, you'll get bars again. Karl's stomach sank. Great. Thanks. Back on the road, Karl gripped the wheel tighter, each mile dragging. Around 2 a.m., fog rolled in, swallowing the world beyond the headlights. He slowed, peering through the dense gray wall. The rhythmic thrum of the tires became hypnotic, lulling him toward a daze. Then, through the mist, two shapes emerged, figures standing in the center of the road, side by side. Karl slammed the brakes, the van skidding to a stop mere feet away. The hooded man was one of them. The other figure, taller and broader, carried something metallic in one hand that glinted in the headlights. Karl threw the van into reverse, but a third set of headlights flared behind him. A car blocked the road, the same one that had been tailing him earlier. Panic roared through him. He cranked the wheel and veered off-road, branches scraping the van's sides as he barreled into the trees. Adrenaline drowned out fear. He drove blindly until the ground dipped sharply. The van hit something solid, jolting to a violent stop. The engine sputtered and died. Karl's chest heaved as he fought to stay conscious. His forehead throbbed. Blood dripped into his eyes. Through the cracked windshield, he saw figures moving between the trees, flashlights cutting through the fog. He stumbled out of the van, half dazed, and bolted into the forest. Branches whipped his face, roots snagging his feet. Behind him, the men shouted, their voices growing closer. A beam of light swept past his shoulder. Karl ducked behind a fallen tree, pressing himself into the mud. His lungs burned, each breath rasping loud in his ears. Minutes passed. The voices drifted farther away. Karl forced himself upright and stumbled deeper into the woods. Finally, through the trees, he saw a faint orange glow, a cabin. He staggered toward it, hope flaring. The door creaked open to reveal an older man in a sheriff's jacket. "Whoa there, son," the sheriff said, catching Karl before he collapsed. "You're hurt. What happened?" Karl spilled everything, the figures, the chase, the car that had tailed him. The sheriff listened silently, jaw tight, before helping Karl inside and locking the door. "You're safe here," the sheriff said. "I'll call for backup." Karl nodded weakly, sinking into a chair. For the first time all night, he allowed himself to breathe. A low rumble broke the silence. Gravel crunching outside. Headlights flared through the rain-streaked window, washing the cabin in white. Karl's stomach turned to ice. "They found me." The sheriff peered outside, frowning. "That your van?" Karl shook his head. The sheriff reached for his sidearm. "Stay here." Karl's pulse thundered in his ears as the sheriff stepped out. Through the window, Karl saw the beams of two flashlights cut across the yard. A muffled shout rang out, followed by the sharp report of gunfire. Then, silence. Karl bolted for the back door, but it wouldn't budge. His breath came in ragged gasps as he turned back to the window. The headlights remained, unmoving. The door creaked open behind him. Karl turned and froze. In the doorway stood the hooded man, rainwater dripping from his coat, a wide grin slashing his pale face. Karl backed away, heart pounding, until his back hit the wall. The man raised something in his hand. Karl's own phone. Its screen glowed with a single mocking message. No signal.